Today we're going to be going over our bromine tablet feeder. In this feeder you're going to use only tablets. We're going to go over some of the components and how this works. So our supply water to the tablet feeder is going to be right in here. So you'll have a hose coming up into the tablet feeder. This will be an isolation valve, and also we have an auto isolation valve that we can control from our controller. That'll shut it off, on and off based on timed feeds if we'd like to run it. One way you can verify that there is flow going through the feeder is we have a rotometer here, and what it will do is you can read the flow going through it. We'll have this setting up here, and you'll be able to see that there's flow going into it, into the feeder. This is one way that you can verify flow going through it without having to open the actual lid of the feeder. Now the feeder, you have your flow coming in, comes through the top, which are spray nozzles, and you'll see the tubing here on the outside. Now the only thing flowing through the feeder would be water. So the feeder actually flows, the water flows through the top of the feeder, feeds down through the tablets, and right back out our distribution line, which would be down here on the bottom. Now this is actual union coming from the funnel of the bottom of the union, and it'll go out into the actual basin of the tower. So there's no isolation valve on this end of it, and only isolation valve on the supply side. We covered some of the external parts on the actual feeder itself. Now we're going to go ahead and open the feeder up. Now inside the feeder, we'll just open this up, and this lid will only open 3/4 of the way open. That way it won't damage any of the components on the outside. Now inside the feeder here, we actually have kind of a separation from the distribution line going out, so you don't plug it. And this is an actual, just a strainer that goes through once the tablets are fed through. Now if you look in through the top, you'll see how it can funnel down, and we shouldn't have any blockage of any tablets going through because of the fine lines. So if we ever do have a slower amount of feeder that we see that we are overflowing on it, we'll know that we can run the tablet feeder down, and we're able to strain it and clean the strainer. So when this is in operation and it is running, we'll actually have these spray nozzles, and these spray nozzles will have water come through them, and they'll actually just spray across the top of the bromine tablets. Now when we do inspect this, we'll want to make sure that they're not plugged and that they're actually spraying out, and that'll be a part of our PMs when we go ahead and review the unit itself. Now this unit's built to hold 150 pounds of tablets, which is about 3 buckets. You'll just go ahead and you'll open it up and you'll pour them in. Go ahead and pour the tablets into the tablet feeder. Depending on the tower, will depend on how many buckets we're putting into there, but the max is about 150 pounds of tablets. I mentioned tablets because that's all we want to ever put into the tablet feeder. That's pretty much it. That's an overview of pretty much how it works. Once we do start to put it in service and we go fill it, we will show you how to fill it and pour the tablets into the feeder. Thanks. A couple things we're gonna talk about as far as the safety aspect of when you're filling the actual feeder itself. So before you go and lift the top and you're lifting it to fill up the feeder, you're gonna make sure that you have no flow on there. So one of the recommended things would be to do is verify flow, make sure there's no flow, and go ahead and you can isolate this and slowly close the valve. That way we'll make sure there's no flow going into it. So that way when you are filling it, you won't have any flow coming through there and possibly spraying onto you. Now, once you've isolated that, you probably want to go ahead and you would want to kind of stand back and slowly open the valve, slowly open this top. I personally open it from the back, so you can make sure you secure the back and let it sit back. This way you can also verify that there's no flow, and also if there are any fumes off of the feeder, you'll be able to let them push out through the front of the unit. Okay? Now you've opened it, you verify that there's no flow on it, you've isolated the actual unit's open itself. You've kind of made sure there's no water coming out of the spray nozzles, and you have your unit without any water or water supply to it. Now, your fumes have come off of it, if there are any from previous tablets being in there. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to lift up your bucket. Before you fill this, or even before you open it, you want to make sure you have all the proper safety gear on. You want to have your rubber gloves, steel toe boots, safety glasses, face shield, and an N100 mask minimum. Okay? Depending on your safety department, some will require more than an N100, but minimum you'd like to have an N100, just so then any fumes that are coming in from the bucket being poured in, you won't catch that fume into you. Also, you want a face shield because you will have some powder that comes off of the tablets itself. So, you know, you're going to go ahead and you're going to lift that up, and you're just going to slowly pour these tablets in there. You know, just slowly pour them in. Okay, and then once they're in, you have all your safety gear, you're standing back from it, pour it in, and you'll let it go ahead and flow into it. Once you've filled it up to the required amount of tablets, depending on what tower you are, you're going to go ahead and just close that lid. And you don't want to slam it down, you want to actually set it down and make sure the unit's good. You want to make sure the top's secured, everything's settling back on the top, make sure there's no leaks going through it, and then you can go ahead and put it back into operation. That's about it.